not. It didn't really matter anyway, since he was probably just ranting some nonsense. But when the second lightning bolt struck from the sky, he finally grasped the vast power gap between him and Lin. His heart roared in fury. He had already been accepted into the Creators Academy, capable of reaching level 32 months ago. Yet he had held back his level for this very competition. He simply could not afford to lose now. His eyes turned white as a glow emanated from them. Shortly after, he suddenly unleashed a burst of powerful holy energy, which collided with the lightning bolt. Seconds later, as the dust settled, Su Sheng was now clad in shimmering golden armor, his veins popping from his forehead. This was his secret skill, the armor of holy light. Rarely seen by others, this skill was legendary for its incredible defensive power, rumored to match the limitless defense of a knight's profession. Some of the audience clearly heard about this, and some of them started to feel pity for Lin, doubting Lin was able to breach such a defense. At this moment, Su Sheng's aura transformed. Seeing this, Lin nodded. This so-called armor of holy light is indeed quite powerful, although no match for his skeletal armor. But end of the day, legendary professions are not something to be looked down upon. Yet, thinking further, Lin raised his hand and summoned a wisp of eerie green flame. However, Su Sheng scoffed, all the while saying currently he was invincible, and that no attack could penetrate his defense. Lin simply smiled, not opting to use his soul flame, but instead becoming deeply interested in just how much can this armor withstand. At the thought of this, he then summoned several skeletal mages, each wielding a different elemental power. The crowd was astounded. It was their first time seeing Lin summon skeletons of 4 distinct elements. Was Lin holding back this entire time? Did he have anything else under his sleeves? Su Sheng was momentarily stunned, not expecting Lin to have such a variety of skeletons at his disposal. Yet even facing 4 elemental mages, he did not believe they posed any threat to him. The 4 skeletal mages took a step forward and simultaneously raised their staves, casting spells at a blinding speed. In an instant, attacks of 4 different elements flew towards Su Sheng. First was wind and fire. Su Sheng felt the terrifying force from the attacks, yet it wasn't enough to breach his defense. Then came ice and lightning, bombarding him relentlessly, but he still appeared very confident, even finding the strength to mock Lin, asking if that was all he got. As soon as the words left his mouth, a cracking sound echoed beside his ears. Su Sheng followed the noise and saw to his horror a crack forming on the shoulder of his armor. The crack swiftly spread, and within moments, his entire shoulder guard was riddled with a web of fissures over 10 centimeters long. Disbelief etched on his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say anything, the crack widened dramatically, and in an instant, the armor of holy light shattered into a million pieces. Without the protection of his armor, a new barrage of attacks rained down from the sky. Su Sheng wanted to say something, but this time he couldn't withstand the onslaught. By the time the audience caught up with the action, he was already outside the arena, utterly eliminated. His eyes were wide open, unable to believe he had been disqualified. Although the arena's protective barriers were designed to prevent fatal injuries, the pain was still real, and Su Sheng was knocked unconscious by the intensity of the pain. The audience fell silent for a few seconds, then erupted into cheers. Lin's skeletons had shattered the armor of holy light, defeating a legendary professional who supposedly countered Lin. People marveled at Lin's formidable power, celebrating his incredible victory. Over at White Divine's small courtyard, White Divine, Meng Anwen, and Old Ning were closely following the competition. White Divine burst into hearty laughter, declaring that Lin was sure to be the champion this time. Meng Anwen nodded in agreement, his eyes drifting towards Mohan, contemplating that the siblings might draw out many hidden forces. When Yi Yi leaped onto the stage to hug Lin, Old Ning blew his beard and stared, cursing at the screen for Lin to keep his distance from Yi Yi. His words, however, couldn't be heard on the stage, and Yi Yi, clinging to Lin's arm, joyfully announced their victory. Old Ning was visibly upset but powerless to intervene. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through as a power professional appeared midair, slowly descending onto the stage. Lin quickly shielded Yi Yi, casting a wary glance behind him. The aura emanating from the powerful professional was so powerful that it even became suffocating, the kind only a top-tier professional above level 80 could possess. The competitors took a deep breath, all recognizing the man was a powerful top-tier professional. Yet the man seems to bore no hostility. He looked over everyone, his gaze finally resting on Lin with a smile, praising everyone's performance and saying everyone here has a promising future. He introduced himself as Wei, who was one of the 12 senators of the empire, and then, with a grand gesture, the 3 sets of championship prizes floated down from the air. He spoke to everyone, but his eyes never left Lin, hinting that should they need assistance in the future, they could seek him out. He was more than happy to offer help. Lin felt something odd about the offer. Was this an attempt to win him over, or was he hinting at something? Yi Yi also sensed something was odd, but neither of them pointed it out right away. Rather, Lin politely thanked the man, who nodded and handed over the championship prize. The moment Lin's fingers touched the prize, he felt something amiss. However, he didn't see a dark energy seeping into his body. Back in White Divine Courtyard, the moment Lin's finger came in contact with the prize, Meng Anwen remarked, "The fish has bitten the hook." Meanwhile, on the stage, Lin took a quick look at the prize before stashing the items into his storage space. However, he kept inspecting his palm, but felt nothing awry. Lin sensed something was amiss, but he couldn't quite figure out what was wrong. Seeing the concern on Lin's face, Yi Yi approached worriedly and asked what was wrong. Lin sighed and shook his head, assuring her that he was fine. Back to White Divine Courtyard. White Divine raised an eyebrow and turned to Meng Anwen, asking who it was. Meng Anwen replied gravely, unable to be completely certain, but suspected it was Wei. Old Ning was surprised and let out a deep sigh, mentioning if it was really Wei, then it would have been troublesome. He then brought up an organization called the Demon Worshipper, suggesting that no one could have anticipated their infiltration to such an extent. If they had penetrated even the high ranks of the empire, what about other nations? Meng Anwen decided to verify his suspicions one more time and closed his eyes to concentrate. Meanwhile, Lin's team competition had just concluded, and the competition for high-level professionals also concluded, undoubtedly dominated by Mohan's group from the Creators Academy. Their victory was effortless, not just because of Lin's sister, but because each member was extraordinarily strong. Lin, leading his own team to watch, was thrilled to see his sister win in her bracket. Yi Yi, curious, looked toward Mohan, surprised to see that this beautiful woman was truly Lin's sister. As the competition ended, a gust of wind passed, and once again, Senator Wei was presenting the awards. He repeated his familiar opening remarks, telling the winners that they could seek him out if needed in the future. After handing over the prizes, Lin's pupils constricted as that strange sensation returned. He quickly asked Yi Yi to use her skill to examine the pouch that contained the prize money. Without hesitation, Yi Yi activated her skill. Her eyes emitted a golden light as she used the shadow vision. The colorful world around her turned to black and white. Under the shadow vision, Yi Yi immediately noticed something amiss. To her surprise, the pouch was enveloped in a dark aura. Yi Yi furrowed her brows as she scrutinized the pouch, unsure of herself. Yet the black aura seemed to be very similar to that of the abyssal energy. As Mohan came in contact with the pouch, Yi Yi hurriedly warned Lin that the dark aura had already crept up to Mohan's wrist. Yi Yi looked visibly anxious, and she wanted to yell out and tell Mohan but was stopped by Lin. She was confused, and just as she was about to ask why, she turned around and noticed the very same black aura was also on Lin's wrist. She gasped in surprise. Lin tells her everything is all right, and remains composed, staring at his own wrist. He couldn't see the dark aura himself, but with Yi Yi's confirmation, he had no doubt about its existence. The dark aura spread from the rewards, burrowing into the hands of each member of the team. It seemed his teacher had been right all along. There indeed were rats hidden among them. His teacher had warned him about these individuals, who called themselves the Demon's Worshipper, all followers of the abyssal demon, intent on aiding their master's invasion of the human world. Lin's role was to act as bait to expose some of them. Clearly, they had made their move, and with the upcoming solo competition just around the corner, he wondered when these rats exposed themselves. At the same time, Lin was concerned for his sister and the rest of his own team, but at the thought that with his teacher teacher, and other divine-level professionals on site. They should be safe, hopefully. The day slowly passed and the sky turned gray. The city was quiet. Most of the professionals were asleep or meditating when suddenly, a fierce wind swept through the city, buildings swaying, the sound of the ocean waves intensifying. Then, the wind picked up, whipping the waves hundreds of meters high, and a massive tsunami was coming their way, nearly submerging the city. The sky thundered, and a portal appeared amidst the storm clouds, with thousands of lightning bolts striking down. However, there was a protective barrier protecting the city. In an instant, the city was enveloped in lightning. These lightning bolts seemed to be controlled, deliberately targeting different parts of the city. As it turned out, they were attacking the magical arrays that controlled the city's barrier. Many professionals emerged, their expressions grave as they watched the unfolding chaos, uncertain of what was happening but sure it was nothing good. Some noticed a new magical array forming in the sky, possibly the work of a high-level professional. But why would they do this? Lin looked up at the sudden appearance of the magical array. He knew something was odd. It seemed the demon worshippers had finally made their move, with the city hosting a massive gathering of the new generation's powerful professionals, including many prodigies and legendary professionals. Eliminating them before they could grow stronger was the optimal strategy. If successful, it would deal a severe blow to the empire and the human race. The magical array quickly formed, yet the surrounding storm raged unabated as many buildings collapsed. Many ordinary people who had come to watch the event fled from their hotels in panic, screaming for help on the streets. What was once a quiet night was now filled with cries of despair. Suddenly, a group of figures dressed in black cloaks and wearing masks appeared at the sky, obviously high-level professionals, hovering in the void. Lin looked on with a sinking feeling, realizing that the enemy had dispatched over a dozen top-tier professionals, all above level 70. The distinctive symbols on the cuffs and collars of their cloaks made it clear to everyone. They were members of the demon worshipper. A few more buildings collapsed and Lin's pupils suddenly constricted. He spotted an individual among the demon worshipper, a top-tier professional over level 80, whose aura was comparable to that of Senator Wei, who had presented the awards to him. Within moments, more armed professionals emerged, many recognizing the people in masks as members of the demon worshippers. Their audacity to strike within the empire was shocking. Weren't they afraid of White Divine? The leader of the demon worshippers scoffed coldly, looking down at the young professionals below and commanded, "Kill!" Instantly, about a dozen figures soared towards the ground. They split off in different directions, attacking the strongholds with incredible speed. Just as these attacks began, figures could be seen within the ocean, and countless abyssal creatures surged from the depths. The number was staggering, perhaps over tens of thousands, and while these creatures varied from those typically seen in the Yuan battlegrounds, familiar demons like dog demons and wolf demons were among them. Accompanied by countless other abyssal demons, they roared hungrily, their bloodlust palpable. Alarms blared throughout the city. Every human professional, regardless of past rivalries, sprung into action. Small teams formed as individuals grabbed their weapons, ready for battle. The abyssal creatures that had stormed the shore now rampaged through city, clashing violently with the professionals. At that moment, Lin's wrist began to glow, the dark aura around it sparkling conspicuously. He became a beacon in the crowd, and as if they had found their target, the abyssal demons surged towards him. As the abyssal demons charged towards him, Lin remained calm, almost expecting their arrival. He smiled, having waited for this moment. It wasn't just the abyssal demons that were approaching. Several members of the demon worshippers were also advancing. Looking at how confident Lin seemed, a figure in the sky, no other than the level 80 professional from the demon worshippers with a mocking grin remarked, "Your bravery is commendable, but futile. Prodigies like Lin often don't live very long." Suddenly, a voice interrupted, saying he disagreed while saying he was doing quite well himself. The members of the demon worshippers looked up in shock, and glancing back, laid eyes on none other than White Divine. The man chuckled a few times, not particularly surprised to see White Divine, who responded with a laugh of his own, suggesting that perhaps they were expecting to see him, then added coldly, "Right, Senator Wei." Wei shuddered slightly, and let out a sigh as he removed his mask to reveal himself, realizing he was not going to deceive White Divine. However, what seemed odd was that facing White Divine, Senator Wei showed no fear. Perhaps he was well prepared for the encounter. Suddenly, a vortex appeared beside the senator, followed by a playful giggle. A female voice emerged, saying, "Who would dare provoke Lord White Divine without a backup plan?" From the shadows, a figure emerged, a female demon with short hair, two long curved horns on her head, and a pair of wings behind her back. She wasn't wearing much and had a lustful figure, and a slender, long tail swayed slowly behind her, adding a playful charm to her appearance. She was one of the abyssal lords, Succubus. Upon her appearance, Senator Wei's eyes gleamed with fervor. His breathing became rapid, and his eyes were glued onto her as if already seduced by her. White Divine, however, remained unaffected by her charm, though he became more serious. Seeing the appearance of Succubus, he finally understood why a level 83 top professional would become a minion of demons. Succubus laughed coyly, using her alluring voice to express her regret that she couldn't charm Lord White Divine. White Divine slowly clenched his fist, not planning to let any of them escape. "Since you've come here," he said, "you might as well stay forever." The Succubus seemed unconcerned, laughing as she tells White Divine that she had no plan to stay here, and her goal was simply to kill all the human prodigies. Her laughter continued, her body swaying seductively. Suddenly, another vortex appeared beside her, erupting into flames that soared into the sky. A demon lord emerged from the midst of the fire, its body engulfed in flames. The Succubus pointed to the fiery figure and mockingly asked White Divine if he still thought he was going to make her stay. With a mighty roar, old Ning appeared next to White Divine, gritted his teeth, and called out the name of the Inferno Demon Lord.